The most important issues facing our public schools, explained by leading teachers, parents, and our elected officials. This is Issues in Education.
Hello, and welcome to Issues in Education. I'm Randy Ward, County Superintendent of Schools, and we have another great show for you on ITV. Our topic is access to college, and it's an important one. A college education is essential for the majority of good careers, and more students than ever are getting that message and meeting the requirements for college and university studies. Yet another state budget crisis is squeezing course offerings and admissions, forcing many students and families to rethink their plans. Folks are wondering, will I still be able to go to college in San Diego? If I go to a community college first, will I automatically get into San Diego State after 2 years? Or if I go to state, will I be able to get the courses I need? Those are just a few of the questions we'll address. And I have a great panel with me to discuss them. So let's meet them now. Stephen Weber is the president of San Diego State University, the largest university in our community and the third largest in the state, with more than 34,000 students. He has led SDSU since 1996 and has been involved in important and high-profile work throughout that tenure. He has also seen significant changes in the issues of access to college. So it's a pleasure to have him with us. Welcome, Stephen.
Good to be here.
Constance Carroll is the Chancellor of the San Diego Community College District, which serves more than 100,000 students at San Diego City College, Mesa College, Miramar College, and the Continuing Education Program. She has led community colleges here and throughout the state since 1977, and we're glad to have her here with us today. Welcome, Constance.
Thank you.
And finally, Bob Collins, who's the superintendent of the Grossmont Union High School District, which educates more than 24,000 students at 9 comprehensive high schools, 3 charter schools, and several alternative education, special ed, adult ed, and vocation education programs. He's helped strengthen student programs in the district and generated a new level of community support. He's also been a teacher and educator since 1967.
That's right.
Welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
So, folks, we've got yet another budget crisis.
Yes.
And we don't know whether it's 5% of our budgets, 10% of our budgets, 15% of our budgets, and yet we're planning right now for next year. What does all this mean, Stephen, for San Diego State University?
Let me start with a broad picture. Just in the current year, funding for the California State University system was cut back $571 million. What that meant at San Diego State was a loss of $55 million just on our campus. And what that has meant in turn is about 500 fewer employees than we had a year ago, and a reduction in our enrollments, and this is over a 2-year period, in which we will reduce enrollments by 4,662 students.
So you've had an increase in trying to enroll candidates.
Applications are through the roof.
Okay.
And we have to constrain the number of spots available.
Okay, so when you say enrollments, it means the seats available for those students to be accepted to get the fat envelope versus the skinny envelope.
Yeah.
Constance, what has it meant for you? You were somewhat hit hard this last year, especially this last year in community college.
Yes. You know, the community college system has been cut by $850 million. For us, that's about $32 million because we were on a lesser compensation scale than the universities. But what it means for the public is this. There is a direct correlation between community college enrollments and unemployment. And when unemployment rises, and in San Diego unemployment is over 10% right now, in Imperial County it's about 30%.
30+, yeah.
Community college enrollments increase. So we increased about 8% last year, but then the state did the same maneuver as affected San Diego State, downsized us by about another 2,000 students. And so we have actually had to turn away about 10,000 students from our district in the fall. We'll be turning away about another 12,000 students in the spring at a time when enrollments and demand are at a historic high. So what it has meant for us is a struggle to provide the service that is needed by our community and needed by our students and needed by people who quite frankly, are seeking jobs.
Also at a time when we realize this global economy and
Yes.
jobs getting shipped out of the country and out of the region, we need to grow our own right here in United States, but San Diego County. So what does this mean for high schools, Bob? High school students, and you've heard the numbers here. That means less of your students can go to these.
The issue is slightly different. We're approaching 20% in cuts over the past 3 years out of the general fund budget. But unlike the community college or the university system, we serve every youngster who comes in. And in fact, over the past 2 years, we've increased in enrollment. So it's meant for us larger class sizes as we've reduced staff. And that's been our major source of revenue. We've made a commitment this year not to cut any staff. We have to prepare kids. We just don't have a choice. You can't hunker down and hope you just teach math, science, and English and get by. So we're in the mode right now of looking at salary rollbacks. We're looking at shortening the school year in order to maintain the coursework that kids are going to need in order to graduate on time and be eligible for the university. Now, the other piece that concerns us, obviously, and it's not a San Diego State issue, and it's not a community college issue here in San Diego, it's a statewide issue, is the lack of available space for youngsters once they graduate. Randy, you know real well, we've been selling very, very hard a promise for the future for kids in America. And today that promise involves 4 years of an education or at a minimum an AA degree, some type of post-secondary training. And if those slots aren't available, that will have tremendous repercussions, one for students and families, but also for the economy of this state. It'll be devastating.
We absolutely agree.
Yes.
So we were talking earlier about this A to G,
Yeah.
which for the parents out there are the course requirements that you need to take and get a certain level grade in to be able to qualify for the state university and UC universities. And we've been pushing it. Have we oversold it?
Well, let me take a stab at this. If you listen to President Obama's State of the Union address and listen to his joint congressional address last year, you would have heard the person at the highest level of America indicating that if you want a job in America, you need to attend some amount of college. Now, whether you get a baccalaureate degree or an associate degree, you have to attend probably at least a year of college just to get an entry-level job. The high school diploma is no longer the gateway to employment, which means that you need to be prepared for college-level work. So from my standpoint, the A to G is not necessarily about going to complete a bachelor's program or a master's or anything like that. It's about entry-level preparation.
Minimum.
Minimum,
Yes.
bottom floor level preparation to be able to negotiate college classes and then to be able to be competitive for a job.
You can't negotiate the careers today
Right.
without
Yes.
a background in mathematics, without a background in science. Years ago, You used to be able to go and get a job in the back of a gas station and fix
A
cars. You
factory or
can't
somewhere
do
else,
that
yeah.
anymore. The computers on these cars are far more sophisticated. The industry is looking for young people who are well trained and have a strong background in critical thinking skills and a variety of other skills in order to be successful.
I really think that's true. One of the things that we're facing here with regard to A through G is people have confused the credentials we offer,
Correct.
whether it's a high school diploma or an associate's degree or a baccalaureate degree or a graduate degree, with the education. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're now dealing with a sophisticated CAM machine on a mill floor, or you're at one of our institutions. You've got to have these skills. If I could, Randy, I wanted to mention one other thing. When you asked whether we'd oversold it, I think we've under-resourced it. And I mean that we as a society, we've under-resourced it. You're hearing from each of us in our own place where the investment we should be making in our young people is not being made. I mentioned that we're going to be forced to cut back over 4,600 students. If we cut back proportionate to the cutback in our budget, we'd have to reduce by 7,600 students. So the faculty and staff at San Diego State are carrying 3,000 students that the citizens of California have turned their backs on. Constance got the
Doing
same.
the same. Yes.
Bob's got the same.
It just seems to me, Randy, you know, our state is really operating on an outdated 50-year-old educational model. The master plan for education in California was created under Governor Brown in the 60s, the early 60s at that. And the percentages that were developed, all of that, this world has changed. There weren't computers then. There was no vision for a technological society. There was no vision that every youngster would have to be engaged at some level in a post-secondary experience. But we, as a legislature and as a leadership at the state level, haven't taken that and rethought what we're doing in this state.
The enemy of the economic health for California is unemployment. And unless we address that through the training that people need for the new jobs that are coming online, new jobs in clean and solar technology and environmental technology and technician jobs in almost every aspect of industry, unless we address the training needs to turn the unemployment situation around, California's economy will fail. And so what I think you're hearing from Steve and Bob and from me is California needs to find a way to reinvest in its own best interest, which is training for jobs, and that means the requisite levels of preparation and resources.
So we talk about California because California is what, the third largest economy in the United States, or seventh, or in the United States, in the world, yeah, seventh or eighth in the world. But and it's doing that. But you could say nationally, these are issues, national issues.
Oh, absolutely
Yeah,
they
they
are.
are.
I mean, because I don't know of any state that's got it put together in a good package that resources their public
Randy, though,
education.
Bob's point about the master plan is right. I've been in a number of different states in higher education, and the master plan is 50 years old. I mean, you just ought not to be guiding the educational decisions of the state on a 50-year-old map. We don't do that in any other part of our. This is pre-laptops, pre-internet. I mean, all that.
Unfortunately, the fact that we still have chalkboards in our classrooms tells you
Yes, it does.
that it's not only a resource, 50-year-old resource issue, but it's a lack of change issue.
Yes.
And all of us are dealing with resource issues in terms of training, professional development, and all those other things that you can't expect those that were brought up in the system 50 years ago to now
Correct.
prepare students for a system they are unprepared to teach. So there are all those resource issues. How do you get the biggest bang for your buck then? How do all of us take what little resources we have and get to, and let me ask this question, because two prominent gentlemen, former CSU trustee Ralph Pesquera and former state senator Larry Sterling, both wrote to the Union Tribune to say that if unqualified students weren't admitted, there'd be more room for students to meet SDSU's admission requirements. And we've had conversations about what are the, there was a lot of students that we're committed to here in San Diego County. Many of them are diverse, so this is, politically sensitive. But many of them get into school, you let them in, and they need remediation. They don't have the skills. They're coming out of our public schools. They don't have the skills. They're not finishing. So you put resources into, and they drop out. Are we using the resources we have to the best of our ability?
Not even close. But let me go back and correct a little bit of that, because I think some of those concerns are, at least in terms of San Diego State, quite a bit out of date. About 10 years ago, we got authority to control our enrollments. It used to be that if you were qualified, not if you were not qualified, but if you were qualified and applied to San Diego State, we had to admit you, period.
Okay.
And if there was no funding, tough luck. It's sort of the problem that Bob has to deal with every day.
You take everybody.
We got that
comes to the
changed.
door.
So what happened then is we began to deny students. And this last year, we have denied 23,000 qualified applicants. Qualified. Now, I don't get to decide who's qualified. The master plan, going back to the master plan, says that the CSU admits the top third of the high school graduating class. And it asks CPEC, Post-Secondary Education Commission, asks CPEC to determine what the top third is. So they decide what it is. Now, for the last 10 years, we haven't been able to take even the qualified, the qualified.
Yes, and the community colleges, I like to say, take the top 100%
Yes.
of the class. What have we done? What we've done is pare the curriculum back to the core by eliminating avocational classes, eliminating electives, so that we can bulk up where students really are focused on either transferring to San Diego State or wherever they transfer to, or focused on careers and development. The problem we have, the biggest problem we have, is the issue of remedial need of students. Now, here's something that may be a surprise in terms of some statistics. When we receive our high school admits, over 50% place in remedial English. They're not ready for college level English, and almost 70% place in remedial math. So we're having to spend an increasingly large amount of our time bringing students up to par. When we get them up to par with the services we provide, they perform as well or even better at San Diego State or UCSD than some of the students who began as freshmen at those institutions. But it's a larger problem, and if we could solve the remedial education issue and bring all of the students up to the level they need, it would be far easier for us to serve more students.
So this is a common issue where,
yes, it is.
I know we're not here blaming, but
No.
the colleges will say if the high schools did a better job, and the high schools will say if the middle schools did a better job, and the middle schools will say if the elementary schools did a better job. And I was a kindergarten teacher, so I would say if the parents did a better job. But those resources for remediation, K-12, they're disappearing quickly, and we're coming to a school with no music, no art, no well-rounded, and you just said one of the things you have to do is focus your content. I know we're doing that in the high schools as well.
One of the things we've talked about a lot about, Randy, is the issue, are we really dealing with education and the delivery of instruction today the way we should be in our schools? And I'm talking mostly now, I'm looking at K-12. We are so far behind when it comes to technology, online, the way, how we address how kids learn today, because they don't learn like we did. They're an entirely different young person who's walking into community colleges, universities, and into high schools. They're wired differently. And it just seems to me, as a state, we have not really taken a leadership role in how we leverage those types of resources in order to address the learning needs of kids. I think it's a major access and equity issue. Right now, throughout this state, a youngster can walk into a counselor and say, I want to take AP psychology, and the counselor will tell him, we don't offer that.
Yes.
And the kid says, okay, and goes back to taking...
Getting online.
Why does that happen today? I just think, again, following up on what Steve said with a master plan, we should be in front of these technological revolutionary advances versus, it seems, at the back door.
But you understand, we focus so much on highly credentialed, and it's the same way we focus with students coming into your university where they have the requirements. It doesn't focus at all on whether you have the skills. And the same way with our teachers. Our teachers, if they come in with a credential, if you take this much time to take certain university courses and you do this and you get highly qualified, whatever that means, it doesn't mean you can teach. It means you have a credential. And it certainly doesn't mean you can teach in an urban environment, because I believe that one of the least prepared, in the area we're least prepared, is teaching urban students, where our populations are grand and the achievement gap is wide.
If you take a look at the graduates of the Cal State universities, including San Diego State, you'll find that 2/3 of those graduates come from community colleges. And from my standpoint, that is testimony for the job we do. I think it's about expectations and how expectations are translated into policy. If our policy as Californians is that what a high school diploma means is, according to the exit exam, 10th grade English and 8th grade math, even when they come to a community college and take automotive technology, they're at grade level 13, and the books are apt to be written at 14 or higher. We are failing because of expectations, low expectations that have been translated into policy, followed by inadequate resources. So it's a large problem that if we had the will, we would be able to solve.
I want to just add to what Constance said, because I completely agree. The expectations is where we have failed as adults. One of the good examples of that is our Compact for Success in the Sweetwater School District. We set out rigorous expectations for those students. They have the disadvantages of lots of urban students. They succeed. They succeed wonderfully. Our EOP students, we have the largest educational opportunity program in the state of California. Our EOP students, these are low-income students, highly diverse. They do better than our student body in general. They're great students, but it's because we put expectations.
That's what I was.
And then they rise.
So you're implying that you've raised the bar.
Exactly.
Said meet this bar.
And they'll do it.
And you will let you in. Not only that, you'll have the skills to succeed.
Absolutely, and you can look at our early and middle college high school programs. You can go to the Garfield program, which is on the City College campus. Those are high school students with probably the most severe urban problems you can imagine, truancy, been adjudicated, etc. The Met School, which is in the middle of the Mesa College campus, another model high school programs. You have graduation rates that are 88%, 100%. The Met School last year had the right to take pride in the fact that 100% of the graduates went on to college, many of them to community college, others to San Diego State and elsewhere. We know what works. It's a matter of having the will, the resources, and the collaboration to make it happen.
Systemic, and but it's difficult. Political will, and I say it's difficult because political. We got term limits. We have people need to get elected. We have unions that want to control other things. We have board members that bend over as soon as 3 people come into the boardroom. Because they don't want to deal with the conflict. So there's a political process, and quite frankly, a part about democracy, that is part of the disadvantage that is causing some of the lack of will in this area. Now, I said this would be fast. We're already at the 5-minute level. So we only have 5 minutes left. And I wanted to give each of you an opportunity to speak to the 3 separate but connected issues. I'll start with you, Bob, because parents are out there now, they've heard all this and they're going, oh man, why are we saving and struggling and trying to put our money away for college? And what could every parent do that wanted their children to go to college? What 3 things could they do to help prepare their child?
Well, my first recommendation is they ignore the media.
Except for this.
You tend to.
Except, yes, don't ignore this one.
You tend to
This is not
get.
media, this is a quality show.
You tend often to get caught up in all the language of the budget, the doomsday predictions, and everything else. For a parent out there, their critical issue is to keep an eye on the ball with their
Stay
youngster,
focused, right.
begin it early, talk college early. As Carolyn said, expectations begin in that house, and they begin in that house early, and they're continued through. And finally, just because your youngster has gone to high school, you don't get to wash your hands and walk away. Parent involvement at that point is even more
critical.
significant.
Okay, thank you. And what would you tell your community college students?
I would tell them 2 things. The first is to become very serious as early as possible about their future goals, whether their career goals or their transfer goals or whatever their goals were, and begin to prepare for them as soon as possible. The second thing I would tell them is to be active in the political process, because California and the policies of California are the result of what the people of California do. And our students are very politically active, and I think we're at a crossroads in California where everyone needs to pay close attention to the political process and to vote and make the decisions necessary to turn this situation around, just as our president is trying to turn the national situation around.
Very good. Stephen, what about those aspiring? Because you got some students out there just going, oh man.
Well, first of all, get rid of all the stereotypes. You can't say that the kid can't do it because they're an inner city kid or because they're low income kid or anything. No, we've got all sorts of evidence that the students can make it. The parents are critical, as Bob said, that focus is essential. The biggest thing is to remember it's about succeeding in life. You got to know who you are, and then you got to be willing to work. I mean, we are not working hard, and I get to deal with universities in China, in India. They're eating our lunch, and at the end of the day, we've just got to work harder as a society, or we're not going to be competitive.
I want to thank you all for coming.
Thank
and,
you.
Talking about access to college is an important topic. It's very much appreciated. And I would like to reiterate the experts here have said, stay focused, participate in your education, in your children's education, work hard, and never ever give up. I want you all to remember that you keep public education your #1 priority. See you later. See you next time. So